Heaven is not a destination you reach. It is a frequency you embody, and hell is not flames stoked by a wrathful deity. It is the burden an unrepentant soul drags along when the body falls away and concealment ends. Most of what you were taught about what comes after was designed to govern conduct, not to disclose truth. The pearly gates, the lake of fire, the great magistrate enthroned in gold determining who merits eternity in radiance and who merits eternity in flame. None of it withstands serious spiritual examination, and none of it surfaces in the deepest accounts ever documented about what genuinely happens to a soul when it passes through the veil. What surfaces instead is something far more sobering, something that transforms how you live the instant you grasp it. There is no outside judge. There is no heavenly tribunal. There is no entity separate from you measuring your transgressions against your virtues. The soul is not sentenced. The soul is exposed. And whatever the soul has constructed within itself over a lifetime of thoughts, decisions, words, and unspoken intentions, that is precisely what envelops it the moment the body departs. Heaven and hell are not places. They are states. They are atmospheres. They are the inherent environment that forms around a soul whose vibration has at last been uncovered, with no body left to shelter it. A person can devote 70 years to performing kindness publicly while nurturing resentment, lust, greed, and contempt privately. The body hides this. The marriage hides this. The career hides this. The Sunday smile hides this. But death strips away every disguise simultaneously. There is no longer a face to compose, no longer words to cushion the reality of what was truly felt, no longer behavior that masks the inner weather of the heart, and what is left is the weather itself. If that climate was love, forgiveness, prayer, surrender, devotion to Christ, service to others, and quiet communion with God, then the soul finds itself enveloped in light. Not metaphorical light, but a genuine environment of luminous beings, of peace beyond words, of warmth that knows the soul as its own. The soul ascends naturally toward that frequency because it already pulses at that frequency. Like draws like. Heaven is not a reward bestowed from outside. Heaven is the soul finding the company that matches what it became. If that climate was anger, pride, cruelty, addiction, deception, hatred of others, contempt for the sacred, and refusal to forgive, then the soul finds itself surrounded by precisely that. A real environment, a real plane, other souls vibrating in the same density, a heaviness with no body left to distract from it, no alcohol to numb it, no screen to flee into, no relationship onto which the pain can be projected. Only the raw substance of what the soul cultivated, now felt from within, with no way out. That is hell, not a punishment, but a revelation. And here is what almost no one tells you. The soul constructs this environment moment by moment, choice by choice, thought by thought, while still walking around in a body. Every act of forgiveness is a brick laid in the house of light. Every refusal to forgive is a brick laid in the house of darkness. Every prayer whispered in secret elevates the frequency. Every cruelty rehearsed in silence lowers it. The afterlife is not somewhere you travel to. The afterlife is something you are constructing right now within yourself, with materials you select every single day. This is why the readings return again and again to one principle that nearly everyone underestimates. Mind is the builder. What the mind dwells upon, the soul becomes. What the soul becomes, the soul inhabits forever, until it chooses to build something different. And the only blueprint capable of forming a soul into the highest light is the pattern Christ himself left behind. Not Christ as a religious symbol, not Christ as a denominational figure, but Christ as the living frequency of perfect love, perfect surrender, perfect alignment with the Father. The pattern every soul is being drawn back toward lifetime after lifetime until the resemblance is complete. Heaven, in its deepest sense, is the soul finally vibrating at the frequency of Christ. Hell is the soul still refusing to. And between those two poles, every human being walks each day, leaning slightly more toward one or the other with every decision they make. You are not waiting for an afterlife. You are standing inside the construction site of your eternity right now. To grasp what truly happens at the moment of passing, You must first let go of the picture you were handed as a child. There is no tunnel leading into a courtroom. There is no man holding a book of names. There is no scale measuring virtues against sins. What unfolds is far more intimate and far more terrifying for those who lived without ever examining themselves. The soul leaves the body and immediately meets its own vibration as a tangible atmosphere. This is the first truth almost no one is prepared for. The soul does not travel anywhere at first. It simply becomes aware of what it actually is, without the filter of flesh, without the distractions of the senses, without the noise of daily survival. And the quality of that awareness is shaped entirely by what was cultivated during the lifetime just ended. A soul that practiced presence, prayer, and love finds the transition gentle. The veil thins, and what emerges on the other side feels like returning home to a place that was always waiting. There is recognition. There is welcome. There are beings of light who approach with familiarity because the soul has been preparing for this meeting for years, through every act of devotion it offered while still in the body. A soul accustomed to numbness, distraction, and self-deception finds the crossing bewildering. The old avenues of escape have vanished. There is no body to fill with drink, no phone to scroll through, no labor in which to bury the unease. There is only the soul laid bare before itself, encircled by whatever frequency it has produced. And for many souls, this marks the first truly honest meeting with themselves they have ever experienced. Then arrives the next stage. The soul is pulled by a law as precise as gravity toward the plane that matches its vibration. This is where the readings disclose something the religious imagination seldom comprehends. The afterlife is not a single location. It is many planes, layered according to frequency. Each one is inhabited by souls at comparable stages of development. A soul does not select its plane. A soul cannot negotiate its way higher. The soul cannot pretend itself into a frequency higher than the one it genuinely carries. The law is impersonal and precise. The plane simply receives whatever the soul has become, and the soul finds itself among others, vibrating at the same level. For souls of high vibration, this is paradise. Not because the streets are gold or the gates are pearl, because the company is radiant, because love flows freely among beings who recognize one another across lifetimes. Because the presence of Christ is felt directly, not as a distant figure, but as the unifying intelligence that holds the entire plane together. There is learning, there is creation, there is service, there is communion. The soul keeps growing, but now without the resistance of physical density. For souls of low vibration, this is something altogether different. The plane they enter is dim. The other souls there are not enemies but mirrors. Each one reflects back what the soul refused to confront in life. Anger meets anger. Pride meets pride. Lust meets lust. Cruelty meets cruelty. There is no tormentor because none is required. The soul torments itself simply by being what it became, encircled by what it drew to itself. This is hell as it truly exists, not a furnace ignited by God, but a frequency ignited by the soul. And here is the part that should reshape your understanding of mercy. No soul is sentenced to remain there eternally. The readings are clear and unwavering on this. Every soul, however deeply it has descended, still carries the divine spark planted within it at creation. That spark cannot be snuffed out. It can be smothered beneath lifetimes of darkness. It can be neglected for ages, but it cannot be annihilated. And the instant the soul turns toward that spark, even weakly, even in desperation, the whole universe begins to answer. This turning is what the readings call repentance, but the word has been so distorted that its real meaning has nearly vanished. Repentance is not pleading for pardon from an offended deity. Repentance is the soul gazing honestly at what it has constructed and choosing, from the depths of its will, to construct differently. It is the inward pivot, the shift of direction, the readiness to release the old pattern and yield to a higher one. And the higher pattern is always Christ. The readings describe Christ not as merely one religious figure among others, but as the soul that attained perfect alignment with the Father and thereby became the pattern toward which every other soul is moving. To turn toward Christ is to turn toward the blueprint of your own perfection. It is to attune your vibration to the frequency that draws souls upward across every plane. It is to accept the aid of the only consciousness fully able to raise a soul out of the lower planes and into the higher. This is why the readings keep returning with such persistence to prayer, to meditation, to forgiveness, to service, to silence before God. These are not rituals, they are vibrational technologies. Each one elevates the soul's frequency brick by brick until the inner architecture of the person begins to mirror the inner architecture of Christ himself. A person who prays each day is not fulfilling a religious obligation. A person who prays each day is transforming the very substance of their soul. A person who pardons an enemy is not being naive. A person who pardons an enemy is dissolving a chain that would otherwise trail them beyond the veil. A person who tends to the suffering without expecting reward is not being foolish. A person who tends to the suffering without expecting reward is placing bricks in the house of light that will welcome them when the body falls away. Every silent, unseen choice matters. Every hidden thought matters. Every private intention matters. The soul keeps record of all of it, and the afterlife is merely the replay of what was recorded, now experienced from within. There is no escaping this law. There is no bargaining with it. There is no shortcut around it. But there is a way through it. And the way is the same way that has been offered from the beginning. Turn toward the light. Align with Christ. Let your vibration be raised by His. Build day by day the soul that will dwell in the heaven it became. Because the building never ceases, not even for a single hour. There is one last truth that must be spoken before the journey turns inward. The soul does not travel alone. From the moment of its first creation, it has been accompanied by the presence of Christ, who waits at every threshold, who reaches into every darkness, who refuses to forsake any soul that still carries the spark of God within it. Even on the lowest plane, even in the deepest self-imposed shadow, that presence remains within reach. The soul need only turn. The soul need only whisper. The soul need only desire, even faintly, to come home. And the response is instantaneous. The light moves toward whoever moves toward it. This is the mercy concealed within the law. Heaven is closed to no one. Hell is not eternal for anyone willing to depart from it. But the departure must arise from within. No one can be lifted against their will. No soul can be rescued while it still grips what condemns it. The hand remains outstretched, but the decision to grasp it must come from within. Long ago, Edgar Cayce held that human beings were profoundly shaped by unseen vibrations, frequencies with the power to alter emotional, mental, and even spiritual conditions. Back then, many brushed these notions aside as mere superstition. Yet today, contemporary researchers have begun investigating how particular sounds might affect concentration, deep relaxation, and altered states of awareness. While putting this video together, I stumbled upon a sound experience that vividly echoed the concepts you've just encountered. If you'd like to explore it yourself, I've placed the link in the description and in the first pinned comment, but engage with it properly in silence, free from distractions. Because some listeners report it transformed entirely how they understand their own minds. And now the question shifts toward you, not toward the soul as a concept, not toward humanity as an abstraction, toward you, the person watching this, the one drawing breath in this moment, the one who will close this video and step back into a life already underway. What are you constructing? Examine the past 7 days of your existence, not the polished version you'd share with a friend. The real days, the thoughts you permitted to loop in your mind, the grudges you nursed in silence, the forgiveness you held back, the prayers you neglected, the kindness you avoided because it demanded too much, the cruelty you rationalized because it seemed warranted. Examine what you genuinely cultivated hour by hour when no eyes were upon you. That is the substance of your soul at this moment. That is the frequency you are carrying. That is the atmosphere that would envelop you if your body were to fall away tonight. Would it be light or would it be weight? Who would greet you on the other side? The beings whose presence you have earned through years of love and surrender, or the mirror images of everything you refuse to confront? If you were to die tonight, would the realm you entered feel like a homecoming? Or would it feel like the first truly honest meeting with yourself you have ever experienced? And if that meeting would be intolerable, what precisely are you waiting for before you start constructing something different? How many more days will you spend convincing yourself there is still time, while the building goes on without your notice, while the soul keeps a record of every decision, while the frequency settles ever deeper into whatever pattern you have been nourishing? What would shift in this very moment if you fully accepted that heaven and hell are not lying in wait for you somewhere up ahead, but are being assembled within you with every breath you draw? Who must you forgive before that chain trails after you across the veil? What pattern must you let go of before it becomes the very air you cannot flee? And how much longer will you delay the only turning that truly matters? The turning toward the light, the turning toward Christ, the turning toward the soul you were created to become. No one else can make that turn in your place. Not a priest, not a teacher, not a video, not a prayer offered by someone else on your behalf. Only you, in the stillness of your own heart, in the privacy of your own will, in the unrepeatable moment unfolding right now as these words come to you. The construction never ceases. The only question is what you are building.
If what you have just heard stirred something in you, there is a way to welcome this silence rather than flee from it. I have placed a link in the description of this video and in the first pinned comment. That sound experience was crafted for moments such as this, when the clamor of the world feels deafening and the soul pleads for attention. Open it tonight in a quiet space and let it work on the places within you that words can no longer reach. The teachings presented in this video are drawn from the work of Edgar Cayce, the 20th century American mystic, whose documented readings examined the soul's journey, reincarnation, the laws of vibration, and the path of return to the divine. This content was developed through the study of his readings and the archives of the ARE,